Hey everyone, welcome back to theclinicaltrialsguru.com. Again, that website address is theclinicaltrialsguru.com. I'm joined by regular guest guru, Mr. Darshan Kulkarni. He's an FDA lawyer, he's a pharmacist, he's a professor, author, right? And
Yeah.
now you've done enough blogs to where you're a blogger too.
I guess that's true. I don't work for the FDA, so I wouldn't call myself an FDA lawyer.
Right,
But
right, sorry. And he
I
goes by
work.
Twitter handle at FDA
Yes.
Lawyers. That's
They,
where I got confused. Yes, I've known Darshan for years now, right? Almost 2 years.
is that true? That's probably right.
We've been doing this for a while. So Darshan's been on the show numerous times. He's a regular guest contributor. He was reporting from DIA,
You
live
forgot
from
my
DIA.
job title, reporter.
Yes, reporter. I need to bring you the press package. So, Darshan, for those that don't know what DIA is, let's just start from there. What is DIA and why may it be beneficial for someone to go? And before we start, I gotta say, although we have Darshan who's an attorney, you should not take this as legal advice. This is free content for you, okay? So if you want legal advice, you need to pay Darshan.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not. This advice may not be right for you. Is basically the concern.
Right.
So don't depend on it. So DIA stands for Drug Information Agency. It's actually a organization. It's a nonprofit organization based out right outside Philadelphia, actually, and it's a pretty huge organization. It's getting bigger. Um, I think they like to think of themselves as being more than clinical trials, and they are. They're actually pretty big in marketing, in pharmaceutical marketing. They're pretty big in general pharma stuff as well. But a huge portion of what they do comes from organizing events around clinical trials, around marketing, and that seems to be their primary bailiwick. They're a global organization. I know there's a DIA in India. I believe there's a DIA in China and Latin American countries. And they're pretty huge and a force to be reckoned with. They, I think they had their primary event. They had it last week or the week before in Philadelphia. I think it was about 6,500 people. And it's a great forum because everyone from the FDA is there. I presented with the Department of Justice. I know HHS is there. So you get to hear some amazing people, primary decision makers, talk about what they do. So you hear about clinical trials, you hear about submission processes, you hear about what are people looking for, you hear about statistical quality control, you hear about what is the FDA looking for when they say they're going to approve your drug or not approve your drug.
Right.
So yeah,
Were there a lot of pharma CROs over there?
it's almost exclusively pharma, CROs, sites. You see a lot of technology providers. You see a lot of quality assurance people and regulatory affairs people. Consultants, a lot of them. Yeah, so it's like I said, it's this industry, it's this ecosystem being primarily represented at an event like this.
Right. So what was the theme this year? Every year seems to have a theme. What was this year's theme? What were people talking about?
This year's theme I think the official theme, again, I don't remember it off the top of my head. I'm sure Pat mentioned it to you, but I think it was something like grow together, partner together, something like that.
We don't care about that nonsense. What were people really talking about? Like, are research clinics going to get paid less or more in the future? What's really going on?
You're like, I don't care about that.
We didn't care.
What were they talking about? The big thing, and I've attended a few events this year, and I'm seeing a recurring theme now, and the recurring theme seems to be outsourcing of pharmaceutical companies. And what I mean by that is, probably about 5 or 6 years ago, PwC, PricewaterhouseCoopers, published a report which talked about the differences between what they called VIPCs versus FIPCs. And I was going, what does that even mean?
Right.
VIPCs, let's start from FIPCs. FIPCs being fully integrated pharmaceutical companies. It's companies that we originally thought of and we grew up with. The idea that an Eli Lilly or a GSK is going to look at 5,000 products, decide which ones of them are worth pursuing, then submit an IND, then submit an ND, do clinical trials, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, then submit either an IND or a BLA. You know, that whole thing.
Right.
That's a fully integrated pharmaceutical company. That seems to be a model that's vanishing. What you're seeing now is virtually integrated pharmaceutical companies that are saying that we don't want to be in the business of doing everything. We aren't the best at everything. I think some people are better than others at identifying good potential products and pursuing those products. So what you're seeing is these companies who are saying, you smaller pharmaceutical company can go acquire a product, you can develop it through preclinical, you can submit the NDA. Once you get into phase 1, phase 2, when we think you actually have a product that's worthwhile, we as a pharmaceutical company with billions of dollars will come and buy it. So, and then you're seeing this. So those will be virtually integrated pharmaceutical companies.
Now, will they acquire the whole company, or will they just acquire the product?
It depends. It depends on which one makes sense. So if there's a lot of losses in the company, they may say, I just want your product. On the other hand, they may say, if there are a lot of losses in the company, that can offset my company's profits, so I'll buy the losses as well. So it depends on what the goal of the company would be, of what an AstraZeneca or a GSK's company's goal would be. The other thing you're seeing is CROs are going down this partnership model as well. Right. So you're seeing situations where large CROs are partnering with large pharmaceutical companies, and these CROs are being told, here are 10 products. I want you to develop 10 products with me. You will have access to information I've never told anyone else. In exchange, I expect you to be a partner in the risks and the profits. So, and again, there are different models associated with that. There are models where they say the CRO basically buys into the success of the product. On the other hand, there are models that the CRO covers its basic costs, and then the pharmaceutical company has some kind of balloon payment which pays them for inordinate successes. So if they come up with the next Lipitor, they might get a portion of that, but their basic costs will be covered. Some CROs will say, you know what, I don't want a portion. I don't want my costs to be covered. I'm betting on this product with you, and I'm making up numbers again, but say 10% off any profits associated with the next Lipitor.
Wow.
So you're seeing a lot of that coming around now. But yeah, you're seeing outsourcing and partnerships, and you're actually seeing organizations and you're seeing events now circling around just this area of outsourcing.
Right.
A lot of technology providers. That's the other weird thing that's coming around. You're seeing more and more technology providers getting into the space. It used to be a few years ago that you had one or two sort of coming up with a new product, new novel way of tackling things. That seems to be changing. The other big thing, and again, to a man with a hammer, everything looks like a nail. But I saw a lot of issues with compliance. Some issues where CROs, I couldn't believe it. One CRO basically said, I will pay doctors whatever I want to pay, and you shouldn't stop me, and why would they participate with me? The idea of fair market value, which we're talking about, he had no idea that even exists. His argument was, I've been in this industry for 20 years, and what you're talking about makes no sense. I'm like, okay, so I will see you when the Department of Justice comes after you.
Wow.
Which was really scary to me, to have someone of whatever level he was sort of being completely ignorant of that fact.
So he was from a CRO.
He was from a CRO.
Okay. See, now it's the lines between pharma and CROs are becoming blurry now. I mean, at what point are we going to see a CRO like Quintiles actually become a pharmaceutical company without us even realizing that it happened? They already have sales reps. They're already sharing the risks with. They have like this other wing where they do they can do marketing services.
Yeah, I always thought they did sales training. I didn't know if they actually went out and actually sold for you. Do they actually have sales forces for you? I didn't know that.
From what I know, I might be wrong, but
maybe you could be right too. I just wasn't aware of it.
But even if they don't, I mean, the next step would be to do that, right?
Yeah, and I see a lot of these companies are hesitant to enter fully into the pharma space because then pharmaceutical companies would be hesitant to approach them.
Ah,
But because you don't want to be giving something like your core products to your competitor to
right,
develop.
right,
As you point out, the lines are starting to blur, and a CRO could stay a CRO, but have its products vested in multiple pharmaceutical companies, and if even one of them sort of matures into the next Lipitor, they're good for a couple of years.
right.
So you might see a lot of blurring in the next couple of years in what this actually means.
Very interesting. I think I'll title this interview "CROs are becoming like pharmaceutical companies."
Where CROs are the next pharmaceutical company.
There you go. Even better, Darshan. Yeah. So okay. So that's kind of the trend. Now, do you know what this trend? It's obviously a long-term trend. I mean, we've been seeing it maybe the last couple of years, and it's certainly accelerating now. Do you know what this trend is a response to? I mean, is it something that someone planned or a group of people got together and said this is kind of what our strategy is going to be, or did it just evolve into this?
You mean you're thinking of the Illuminati, or?
Well, kind of. I mean, you know, the good old boys club. There's plenty of those guys in the pharma industry.
You're right, but no. In my opinion, I think it's actually come out of the fact that pharmaceutical companies are now facing the patent cliff. So a lot of drugs like Lipitor are going off patent between 2011 and 2015. I forget the number, but it's something ridiculous, like $25 billion worth of drugs or $50 billion worth of drugs are going off patent. So a lot of the money that pharmaceutical companies had to spend on R&D is just poof, disappeared.
Right.
So where do you save money? You save money by deciding which risks you're going to take. If you take the wrong risk, your company's going to go bust. So what you do, you actually share the risk. How do you share the risk? You talk to your providers. You say, will you take on some of the risk? But if we succeed, you can succeed with us.
Right. Right.
So I see it more as a result of business strategies, as a result of financial pressures, as a result of different goals and different ways of addressing and risk management. You're seeing a lot of this happen.
Mm-hmm. Now back to the example, and we're not going to name names, obviously, but the guy who worked at the CRO who said, "I'll pay doctors whatever I want."
Right.
Clearly, he was talking about paying them more than fair market value, right? Or was it less?
No, he didn't even know that the word fair market value existed.
Right, but the issue was he was overpaying.
Yes, very much true. Basically, the situation was he's like, if the doctor makes $2 million, why would I pay him less than what he makes or what he wants to make? That was his logic, and that logic would have held up 10 years ago. Except you're now seeing Department of Justice stuff come out from 10 years ago where they said that logic didn't hold up 10 years ago. So even if you were in the industry for 10 years at that point, turns out that was the wrong thing to do even then.
And then the Sunshine Act came, and that's a direct response to this kind of stuff?
The Sunshine Act is a portion of the direct response to this kind of stuff. There's this idea that doctors are being overpaid. I'm not necessarily sure if that's true, but assuming that's true, there's this idea that transparency will cure everything. I'm not a big fan of the Sunshine Act. I've never been a big fan of the Sunshine Act. In fact, I wrote a blog a few months ago where I basically asserted that the Sunshine Act doesn't actually disinfect anything. And the idea is that these CIAs, and we've been seeing CIAs now for several years. I think AstraZeneca, if I remember correctly, is on its second CIA. And so it's 5 years over. It's actually on a second term of 5 years or something like that. I'd have to go back and double check. But the idea being that these CIAs often require that you actually publish a lot of this data. And so companies have been publishing data. And the thought process was that if you publish this type of data, the cost of drugs will go down because people will know what doctors are being paid, or that people will know what you're doing with this data or doing with your money. Well, that didn't actually work out that way. So if it didn't work out that way, why would you say that doing it at a national level will actually help? you then take on something like, what is the cost of compliance with the Sunshine Act?
Hmm.
And I can't remember if it's an OIG report, an HHS report, or a GAO report, but one of them actually came out and said just complying with the Sunshine Act is going to be almost $1 billion the first year, and then it's going to be several hundred million after that. So
Wow.
we don't know what the advantage of doing it is, but we believe that Sunshine compliance is a good thing. There's no reason to believe that, all evidence to the contrary, but let's do it anyways. So I think we're going off on a tangent, but I think this idea of let's push transparency for the sake of transparency, in my opinion, is overblown.
Right. So, nevertheless, the theme for DIA and definitely the trend we've been seeing for the last several years is outsourcing of clinical trial work. More of that to pharma, more of that from pharma to CROs, where the CROs are no longer just conducting studies on behalf of the pharmaceutical, but they're actually sharing in the risks and the rewards.
Correct. We're seeing a lot of.
And now, how do you know anything about how this may impact the sites? Is there any evidence out there to give us some kind of guidance on that?
I think sites. We haven't seen the exact impact on sites yet, but what you're going to probably start seeing is that if you have preferred providers, such as CROs are going to have their own preferred sites because they know that they're performing sites. The point is, so you're going to start seeing more MSAs being done, because if you're partnering with a pharmaceutical company, and pharmaceutical companies, tend to have a focus area. So I think Novo Nordisk focuses on diabetes. BMS, if I remember correctly, is also diabetes. And Pfizer, for example, I believe is mental health with the whole thing. So you'll have these CROs now saying, we do primarily men's health. We have a diabetes core, if you will. So if they're doing a bunch of diabetes studies, suddenly they're going to have 10, 15, 20, 30 preferred providers, preferred sites that they go to. So you're going to start seeing situations where these same 10, 15, 20, 30 sites get a lot of contracts. What does that mean for a startup site? I don't know. Probably not the best things.
Right. Probably not. I mean, and it's probably too soon to find out. I mean, if there's a startup starting now, they might still be getting there early enough for them to eventually get these master site agreements and things like that. But we're looking at like the next 5 years from now. I'm definitely seeing the trend towards preferred sites as well. And this is something I have a huge interest in also.
Okay.
So yeah, this is definitely wraps up this video. We're going to be shooting a few more. Stay tuned. But basically, what was the title of this one? CROs are becoming the next pharma?
Yep, that's right.
Okay, that's the title. And this is Dan and Darshan Kulkarni from theclinicaltrialsguru.com. Take care.
Thank you, Dan.